we're going to make some T-nuts for my mill. Keep running out of T-nuts, so I've got a chunk of metal. We're just going to pop holes in it, tap them, and then horizontal mill a section. I can horizontal mill about 10 inches, so we should get about 8 nuts. Okay, so we started the day with a bit of die chem, marked out inch chunks. Smells good. Giving it the old hacker. Now we're heading for the drill press and we'll pump holes in. We're going to use a hole at each end to clamp the work onto the tabletop, and then we're going to drill and tap all the others for M10. We meet back at the drill press. I'll put a bit of die chem on there, scribed a line across my chuck so I can line it up. Just got it centred up with a little doobries there, so that's running true, and we'll get centred up on my pops. Got a couple of parallels underneath, so I should be able to just go zink, zink, zink. Right, that looks good, so I'll lock that off. And we're going to put 8mm clearance holes at both ends for 5/16, and the rest is going to be 8.5mm. Got my parallels just with a little spring between them holding tight. Let's see what happens. Eight millimeter. Alright, so we're going to run through these now. Tapping drill M10 8.5. So I'm going to drill all the holes, then come back and tap. Alright, so we're on the last hole. I'll just do the line up for you. Got a line on my vise. I'm lining it up on the line on the workpiece. And that's probably good enough.
Smoking.
That's quite handy. Just a spring-loaded whacker with a brass hammer on it. It's a Barson hammer drift. Who knew? That's it there. Blooming hard to make sure that's in tight, so just a knocker. It's a broken key in there. So the idea is we set the depth, we drop the tap in, and hey presto, Bob's your uncle, Robert's your relation, Fanny's your auntie, we're up. Alright. So this is a Tapmatic 50X. I've set the dial here on about 6, maximum RPM 1500, my RPM is 880, I'll go to 460. Right, let's have a look at that. Okay boys, it's in forwards, doesn't look like it, but anyway, let's see what happens. So yep, that's not quite what I wanted to happen there. Okay, so we've tightened things up, tapped it through and sorted out my setup. We've run through the holes, done the first tap and just make sure they're all tidy now. Yeah, I didn't tighten that clutch down as tight as I could have. I took 2 or 3 pecks to get each thread hole done. It's quite deep. So a little bit of time working out the setup, and then you can tap away quite quickly with that floating tap. So that's the brand's a Goon Ring. It's blooming heck, it's not even warm. That's lunatic. Okay, good. So that's your tapping head. And actually we were only on a number 5 there. And it goes 6, 7, 8. You twist round, I can't do it with the oily hands. But you twist round and set the tension on the clutch on this. And it's an M3 to M12. So I'm guessing I was a little bit light, but I'd rather be light and not knack it. That's the anti-rotation bar. Okay, so there you go. Just made to fit this collar, which has been rived out. This is the collar that usually holds like a safety screen. Yeah, as usual, I tried to put my countersink in, but it's such a long way down with this that I've just put a big gnarly drill in. Okay, so here we go. We're back at the mill. We're tightening down to the table. We know we're parallel because we've got 2 3, 2, 1 blocks there. Right, we've got our arbor on, got a pair of matching wheels that are going to cut in that direction. Slip that one over the key. We know the width that we're wanting because we've got a pattern. So we want about yay much between the wheels. There we go. So we've got a series of sized rings that we just put between them and make it up. Okay, so when the 2 wheels go together, touching on the arbor, the central parts are touching, so I need a combination of rings to give me 4870. So I'll just add these together and work it out from there. S 22, and we'll see, we'll run it, see what it looks like, and then probably have to adjust it again. And we won't tighten that nut until we've hit it with the overarm support. put the overarm in as well, might help. Alright, so the overarm support is in. We're cutting in that direction. Bring the table up. Yeah, that's what I was meaning by the tighten the overarm first and then snug it up there. Right, nice. Well, we got that set up, all looking good, and it's not a very good matching pair of wheels. I was cutting, I don't know, 0.5 millimetre early on one side in comparison to the other, so I've sort of cobbling together as good as I can. I'm going to swap those out and start again. Okay, well, it's been a bit of a kerfuffle, but we're getting there now. I'll put the guard on, because this is one of the jobs where I do not fancy getting my fingers in it, and it'd be quite easy to do that. Oil it up, tighten on, and put a 1.5 millimetre cut on. I've got the coolant going. Just make sure where I am. What's going around it? Right, see what happens with that. That sounds happy. While that's running, I'm going to mix up, there's a lot of water there and there should be a mix of coolants. So I'm going to use this to whisk up the coolant in the coolant tank. There's your coolant tank there. It's been a while since we've been used, so I'm just going to mix it up. So we're running now, and there you go. Not so much water everywhere. It's all mixed up. That emulsion takes a little bit of settling out after a while. And we've got a splash guard on the end, one on the bottom. We've got this better under control now, so we're looking good, and we'll just run through this. Okay, so here it is, the far end, cutting away, coolant coming through. Got the back gear going on. Got a spare oil can and a spare coolant pump in there. Anyway, forgot about that. So the key to what we've been doing are these spacing collars. There's combinations that you can add up, you know, up to 2 nearly 2.1 inches, and starting down at 0.15 inches. Not quite a full set. Having a little waffle one is not part of the set but fun. Having an adjustable does help. That was a bit wide for this job today. A nice set all the same. We're getting towards the end of the first cut there. It's looking nice. We've measured across here. That's the right size for our T-nut. So it's just more of the same now. Rinse and repeat. Right, we're in back gear, tootling along. Slowed it down now. 50 revs a minute. Slow feed. We're heading down to the final cut now. We're taking millimetre cuts. You can feel reasonable vibration, but it's not ridiculous. I'll knock the feed off in a second. Motor's toasty, but not ridiculous. I'll give that a good blow off with cool air in a minute. The original's slightly taller, just because of the size of the stock. I've kept this shoulder the same, just so that when you run the machine it drains underneath. If you fill the hole of the T-slot down here, you're just going to, you're not going to get machine drainage. Nearly. It is slow. Oh dear. Yep. I'm happy with that. There you go. Flourish be. What I'm going to do, they're all drilled and tapped. That's 5/16. The rest are M10. I've got to cut each of the T-nuts off with a hacksaw, but I'm going to round these corners off so it fits nicely in the T-slot. I'll bolt through with 5/16 hardware, and then we'll take a corner rounding mill and chamfer off those corners. Right, microphone's gone Pete Tong, knucklehead's on. Here's a tramming device, Edge Technologies. It's all set, good to go. You actually set a 0 on the first dial, then spin the quill 180 degrees, set the same setting to the second dial, and that's it set up. There's a little block comes in the kit, so you set your 0 off the tabletop. Right, we've put a parallel on there, so we've got a nice flat surface, and we're just going to get both of these dials to read the same number by just bumping it around a little bit. Right, just lock that off. We've got the work held down with cap heads. I've got a corner rounding end mill sat there, and I'm going to manually cut this side so I'm not climb milling, so the work's moving into the cutter, the cutter's cutting it out of the work, so it's not juddering all over the place. And I've just cleared that stud, and I'll get a bit of coolant on there. There we go. The Manumatic applicator, and just wallop off those corners. Right, we're done yon side, we're back on this side, and now we're going to knock it into drive. Just wind back on the feed screw and then click in. Get a bit of coolant running in there, and the idea here is it's cutting, the table's moving into the cutter. It's just feeding along, cutting in, spitting it out,
and it's quite a heavy cut, that. Right, we've come to the end of our cut there. I'm letting it run dry so I can see that cutter, and lock the long axis of the table, and then come in cross feed across the workpiece. Yeah, a little bit deep, but we'll tidy that up later. There you go. That's the general idea. Right, on the base on the underside there, you can see on my original nuts, I've just bomped them off, and that's so that the you can't screw down into your table, screw a stud down through the T-nut into the table. So I've crossed them off, bomped them off, and I'll do that while I've still got these all in one piece.
Alright, so I'm here at the vise in case you didn't follow what I said. I'm going to pump it off. Right, so let's get started. It's one thing making a mess cutting things with a machine, but if I cut this wrong by hand, I'll be miffed. It's hard work. So I've tidied the ends up on the mill, filed off the corners, and the reason for doing it is because the standard M10 doesn't engage as much as the T-slot. This has got a much better engagement, and the better the engagement, the less stress it's putting on the slot and everything. Just sits better, less likely to move, less likely to have an issue. Super pleased with that. Job done. I'm gone that way.